Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying all day. So far, a major patch update arriving into Modern Warfare 3. Yes, a massively changing the game, and the pros will have a couple of days of practice only to get things ready going into the Major 4 qualifiers. One of those pros that will be playing in those series, though, will be none other than PurJ, returning to the CDL after the stint on the Paris Legion, on Vegas Legion, where he got dropped for a scene. That didn't end well for them. Now he's back in the league on a different team, on a short-term contract with Miami Heretics. What's going on here? How is this happening? How is he going to perform against OpTic in just a couple of days' time? How do we even get to this point? Very much interested to your thoughts and all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Here, by the way, is an Italian with the McLaren t-shirt rather than the Ferrari one. That might, well, make a few waves for some people. But let's just talk about this PurJ thing just straight up, right? Because this guy is in for Heretics. What's going on here? Why? How have we got to this point? So Vikul is going to be stepping away for this series. It's likely to be a very short-term thing. Not exactly sure why, but hopefully everything's well for, Javi, right? Just because this is a rather important time for the Miami Heretics, if you guys hadn't noticed. It was the same talking points that we had on the Carolina Ravens, that they took a long time to get everything set up with their penthouse or whatever they've got, where they play out of for their matches. But even after they got that sorted, they weren't always there all the time. And in the series that they weren't all there, I think Clay went back to Texas to take care of some things that didn't play so well. 10 points for every online series is massive. Miami are in a good spot to try and make it to the World Championship this year, but it's far from guaranteed. So you really want to ensure you've got your full strength team where you can for, going forward. So you really want to ensure you've got your full strength team where you can. But yeah, not the case here. So Vikul is stepping away for personal circumstances just for this game against OpTic, it seems. So he should be back for the following weekends. Now, it's fascinating how we got to this point though. Now, they do say OpTic with the T capitalized, and then they say OpTic with the T not capitalized. So I don't imagine Hex is going to be too happy about that one. But PurJ has been signed on a temporary deal. You might wonder, okay, why, when they have a substitute? ErikBooM is their sub. He played for them at the start of the season. They made changes. Well, Journey was there, then he was gone, and he's actually been dropped. ErikBooM stays on as their substitute. But as they say, because the Challengers schedule overlaps with the Pro League, he actually doesn't want to play. So therefore, they're going to sign somebody else instead. So this is absolute madness in many ways, right? Just because Miami, if you guys have ever listened to their comms, they speak Spanish. Maybe PurJ speaks Spanish. Maybe he does. I'm actually not familiar with his game. His surname is Perez and seems to be of some Hispanic origin, so there's every chance that he does speak Spanish and it's going to work perfectly well here. But the real question is like, okay, PurJ is coming back after that stint on Vegas where he did a great job, I think, in hindsight. They made the move, a scene comes through, Vegas fell off a cliff, and even now they're thinking, Vegas, what the hell do we do? They brought Johnny in. They haven't made a further change since then because they just don't have enough evidence to say whether that would be a good or a bad idea. But in hindsight, PurJ did a pretty good job this season. Yes, his numbers weren't the best. Arguably, they were the worst in the entire league. But there was clearly more to it than that, looking back in hindsight. And as a player to come in, fill in, do a job, communicate well, PurJ has got to be one of the best guys. But why not get your actual substitute? That is the really strange thing about this whole discussion, is that ErikBooM was there and he's getting paid, right, by Heretics to be their sub. So when they need a sub, then he doesn't come in. What's going on, right? So just to clarify, if I was already qualified for the Elite season, I would be playing the game against OpTic. But as it's only one match and I also have to play the Elite qualifiers the same day and at the same time, I'm not going to ruin the end of my season to play a match that I shouldn't be playing. And look, I think this is probably fair from ErikBoom's POV. It's like, look, I'm grinding challenges as well. Obviously, I'm only coming back for this one game for you guys. Get somebody else in instead. I want to play the challenges game. It's a couple of things, really. Probably it makes sense for the CDL to ensure going forwards that this conflict doesn't occur, right? Because if it does, then you get situations like this where actual substitute players don't want to play for their main team. And also, I guess Erik thinks it can only end badly for him. He comes back in, maybe gets slapped around a series by OpTic, which probably wouldn't go so well, and then straight back to challenges. Honestly, fair play to Heretics for actually accommodating this, because I think there's some organizations that would be like, you're our sub, we're paying you to be the sub, you're coming in, I don't care what you think, you're coming in. And they wouldn't sign, they got to pay PurJ a bit of money to sign him for 14 days on those 14-day contract deals they can do to get someone over the line just for a couple of matches. So fascinating to see, really. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. But also for OpTic, right, of course, it means that they can't play Vikul like Pred. We talked just yesterday how Pred and even the entire OpTic team, it seems, doesn't get on well with Miami. Pred especially holds a big grudge against Vikul for what happened several months ago now, and unfortunately for Pred, he doesn't get to slap Vikul around. Like, he's not going to be able to beat him. Even Miami themselves said this on Twitter, which is pretty comedy to be fair. But PurJ is back in. Maybe a masterclass is coming on that one, but going to be fascinating to see their game this weekend when OpTic play Miami again for the millionth time over the last several years. But let's talk about the major update to the game yesterday that caused lots of, controversy and reaction. The rival is better again. So the maximum damage ranges have been increased. The short range, the medium range, those have both gone up. Relatively significantly. It's maybe not crazy, but it's relatively significant. The MCW, by the way, is back. Now, a while ago, they changed this, right? So the headshot damage on the weapon was reduced quite considerably in terms of the multiplayer, and you weren't able to get a quicker kill by throwing a headshot or two into the mix. Now, that is absolutely possible again. So with all the talk a little while ago now that, oh, the MCW, it's been nerfed so hard, you know, the subs are so blessed and all this that some of the ARs were throwing around with, and then it's become quite clear since then that actually that weren't really the case. Especially at the LAN in Toronto, there was lots of MCWs in play. When you see sub-base played, it's 3 MCWs per team. Like, that gun is still really nice, and now it's even better. And this was the talk yesterday from, Dashy puts this out, obviously, with, the wink right here saying, wow, we are so back after all the talks. Cellium as well. Well, okay, he didn't actually tweet this, but, FaZe tweeted this. Cellium getting ready to go potentially for this one. So there's that big update. This was probably the major one that caused the talking points though yesterday on the high-rise propane tanks, which will no longer kill players apparently in the CDL modes and in ranked. So after this new update, the propane tank's kill death ratio is going to stay obviously undefeated because it's been dominating the season so far with the 99 rated Lineman cards, but now it's going to fall off a cliff and is going to be in the 50 rated category. Burger King of the week, maybe the propane tanks, because they are not going to be killing anyone apparently. But as I say that, well, this is a good change, by the way, because it's so forgave, right? Like, the start of this game, the maps weren't great for competitive. The game state wasn't great for competitive. Better than last year, but not great at all. As time has gone on, they have done a stellar job, to be fair, Sledgehammer, trying to make the gameplay better. They've changed a load of things over the last 6 months. The game has improved considerably, I would say, for competitive. Certainly the new maps have been part of it. And yes, they've made some missteps. They've made some mistakes. And that may continue. But they are at least trying to make good changes for the game, because the propane tanks, like, maybe there was some skill in trying to set them off, certainly to kill people up the top here, but the way that it would go off towards that A control point was just so random at times that it was just, you were playing a coin toss simulator in terms of who was going to die and who wasn't. But Arcees actually says, it's still one pumped in me. Like, don't believe everything you see on the internet. This is still happening. So this may be another one of the cases of they say they fixed it, but have they actually fixed it? I don't really know. And sometimes this happens when they do a patch update, it doesn't really work. They then have to drop like a new version a day or two later to actually make it work. The problem is for the pros, they play on this update this weekend, which is kind of crazy. I think it's a good thing, but it's kind of remarkable actually to think about. Bance as well, quote, tweets the fact that the cruise missiles have got even better. The radius has massively increased actually, because, a 50% increase in radius increases the overall area of effect by even more than this, right? It's pi r squared, so it's the increase in the radius by 50% squared. So that's an increase of, 2.25 or 125% increase. So the actual area has over doubled as a result of this. So that's a big deal as well. The crews just got way better. Bance is like, why? They also nerfed, or let's just say decreased, the footstep volume, which is definitely a good thing. And as Clay says, all the sound EQ users and people are taking covert off now because there's there's certainly people in the league right now that are using the sound EQ to still get the cheese in online. Online, maybe you can't do it, but online you still can and still hear some things that maybe otherwise wouldn't be possible. The footstep audio is now going to be even quieter, so that's certainly a good thing. This, though, was probably the big other piece of drama on the 6-star rotations. They changed this a little while ago now. The pros didn't play on it yet, of course. They've been playing the old version for now. But they changed it and they moved the hills all over the place. They've now done this. So they've put a hill at number 4, which was so obvious to put a hill there. They've finally done it. But there's only 4 hardpoints now. To be honest, I don't actually hate it. I know that we talked about this as a possibility. The funny thing is, I actually quite like the way these hardpoints are set up right now. Of course, it's very similar to how it was previously, with number 4 being in a slightly different spot. But it now just doesn't have the pool hill, right? It's gone. They've removed it officially. So, and they have not replaced it with anything else, which I think is honestly fine. But it's funny how when the pool hill first became a thing, the general consensus of the pros and the community was, wow, this is so stupid, it's got to go. Now I would say the general consensus is that it should stay, or at least stay in some form. And maybe it's, you know, OpTic fans maybe are more inclined to say that just because Shotzzy's been unbelievable at that particular hardpoint, and that didn't look likely to change. But there's only 4 hardpoints on this 6-star map now going forward. So, and this is going to be played, by the way, in just a couple of days' time. I mean, actually tomorrow on the Friday, the game gets underway with this new patch update. It was somewhat unclear whether this would be the case or not, because JKL says to the league, hey, will it be played on this patch or not, Mr. COD League? And then he goes on to confirm that via various sources, it will be played on this latest patch update. So the pool hill is gone, the MCW and Rival have been buffed, the high-rise fixes, the pros have effectively a day and a half, 1 day, 2 days to practice this new patch update, and then they're going straight into the situation, which I think is honestly fine, but it's still, yeah, maybe not ideal. And obviously, you know, the Challengers players are talking about the fact that they've got to deal with this basically every single time. And again, it does raise questions on, is the messaging from the CDL making any sense? Because as Ben says, they talked about this on the flank and thought, no, it's probably going to stay as it is. But no, like the COD League is saying, actually, yes, it is coming in, but they haven't said that. We're just hearing that it might be true. And the pros are talking about it. It's like, do we want to have any transparency and make it clear, or do we not? It's kind of just confusing to me. Just one final thing to mention here from Dashy. Looking at the Black Ops 6 Vault Edition with these weapons in play. Now, some of these may look rather recognizable. Certainly this one on the right-hand side here looks to me like a Sorg, basically, which was the SMG in Black Ops 4. And this gun up top kind of, well, it reminded Dashy of the Paladin, I think, which is possibly understandable. I think the magazine here looks somewhat like what the Lotus had from Black Ops 2, maybe, and I kind of see some vibes of that as well. I don't know. All I see is a game that looks pretty good, but we've not really said any actual gameplay yet. But very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
So the flank and like the watch party and stuff that we did chat was in like a conference room of a hotel, like basically a ballroom of a hotel, of the player hotel. And one night Gersh needed to get his like backpack or something out of the room. And the way that we had everything set up was obviously the couch and like the monitors and stuff, and we just had like one PC with like 4 monitors attached to it for the watch party. And Gersh went inside to get his bag at like 3 in the morning, and there was a homeless man on the couch servicing himself to pornography on all 3 monitors of the computer. So that was cool.